I don't wait for anything or anyone. Now you'll do as I say.
The grapes grew, the wine flowed. And for 9 seasons, Falcon Crest served up wealth, betrayal, and family warfare in California's wine country. But behind the vineyard glamour, chaos fermented. One star was fired for gaining weight. The show's creator was banned from set after season 2. And Jane Wyman's hearing loss created a production nightmare nobody could solve. These are 20 secrets about Falcon Crest that stayed buried in the cellar for decades. Time to uncork the truth. Number 20. Jane Wyman was almost completely deaf, and nobody knew.
How dare you intrude into my personal business?
The Falcon Crest accounts aren't your personal business, not anymore.
Wyman felt as if she were saying goodbye to a family.
It's a funny feeling because you...
Angela Channing, the matriarch, the iron-willed vineyard owner who controlled everything and everyone around her. Jane Wyman played her with such a commanding presence that viewers never suspected the truth. Wyman was profoundly deaf. Years of film work around loud explosions and machinery had destroyed her hearing. By the time Falcon Crest started in 1981, she could barely hear anything without powerful hearing aids. But she refused to wear them on camera. Vanity, pride, fear that it would make her look old or weak. So the production had to adapt to her. Directors learned to speak slowly, facing her directly so she could read lips. Other actors had to deliver their lines while looking at her, even when it didn't make sense for the scene. The crew couldn't yell directions from off-camera because she wouldn't hear them. They had to use hand signals, a complex system of gestures that took weeks to learn. Close-ups became crucial because Wyman relied on reading lips to know when to respond. Wide shots, where she couldn't see other actors' mouths, were nearly impossible. The editing team spent hours piecing together scenes because Wyman would sometimes respond too early or too late, not hearing the cues. Other cast members grew frustrated but couldn't complain. Wyman was the star. The show existed because of her. So everyone worked around her disability, creating elaborate workarounds that viewers never noticed. For 9 seasons, Angela Channing ruled Falcon Crest with an iron fist, while Jane Wyman ruled the set in complete silence. Number 19. The show's creator was fired after he punched a network executive.
I had envisioned the Jane Wyman character as older.
Something in the air this morning. It's so heavy, so still. Not even the birds are singing.
Earl Hamner Jr. created Falcon Crest. He'd previously created The Waltons, one of television's most beloved family dramas. CBS trusted him completely, gave him creative control, promised minimal interference. That lasted exactly 2 seasons. The problem was ratings. Falcon Crest was successful, but not as successful as CBS wanted. The network kept demanding changes. More sex, more scandal, less family drama, more soap opera. Hamner resisted. He'd envisioned Falcon Crest as a saga about family legacy and the cost of ambition. The network wanted Dynasty with grapes. The fights escalated throughout season 2. Conference calls became shouting matches. Script notes became demands. Then came the breaking point. A network executive flew to the set unannounced, started giving notes directly to actors, bypassing Hamner entirely. Told Jane Wyman her character needed to be sexier, more seductive. Wyman was in her 60s. She was furious. Hamner was more than furious. He confronted the executive in the parking lot. Words were exchanged. Then Hamner threw a punch, connected solidly with the executive's jaw. Security had to pull them apart. Within 24 hours, Hamner was removed from the show, not fired officially. Transitioned to a consulting role. He never set foot on the Falcon Crest set again. The show he created ran for 7 more seasons without him, and it became exactly what the network wanted. A trashy, sexy, scandal-filled soap opera that bore almost no resemblance to Hamner's original vision. Sometimes the thing you create grows into something you wouldn't recognize, and sometimes you get fired for trying to protect it. Number 18. Lorenzo Lamas was contractually required to remove his shirt 3 times per episode.
Perdona. Creo que oigo al médico.
Lance Kumsong, the brooding, handsome grandson caught between family loyalty and personal desire. Lorenzo Lamas played him with smoldering intensity and impeccable abs. That second part wasn't an accident, it was contractual. CBS had a clause in Lamas' contract, minimum 3 shirtless scenes per episode. Why? Because viewer research showed that Lamas' bare chest drove ratings among the coveted female demographic aged 18 to 49. Every time Lance appeared shirtless, ratings ticked up. So, the network made it mandatory. The writers had to find creative ways to get Lance's shirt off. Swimming pool scenes, bedroom scenes, working in the vineyard during heat waves, getting caught in the rain and needing to change clothes. One episode had him shirtless in 4 different scenes, and viewers sent letters praising the character development. Lamas initially thought it was funny, free money for taking his shirt off. But by season 3 he was embarrassed. He wanted to be taken seriously as an actor. He asked the producers to reduce the shirtless scenes. They said no. The contract was clear. He threatened to refuse. They threatened to sue him for breach of contract. So Lamas complied but started gaining weight on purpose. Not dramatically, just enough that his abs weren't as defined. The network noticed immediately. They sent him a warning letter. Maintain your physical appearance or face consequences. Lamas hired a personal trainer, went on a strict diet, and spent the next 6 seasons shirtless 3 times per episode, hating every moment. Years later, he said the Falcon Crest shirtless clause ruined his relationship with his body. He couldn't look in a mirror without seeing a commodity instead of a person. Number 17. The vineyard didn't exist. Falcon Crest, the sprawling estate, the endless rows of grapevines, the grand house overlooking the valley. It was television's most iconic vineyard, and it was completely fake. There was no Falcon Crest estate. The production used 3 separate locations and clever editing to create the illusion of one property. The house was a real mansion in Napa Valley, owned by a private family who rented it out for filming. But it had no vineyard. The grapes were 40 miles away at a working winery that allowed the production to film during harvest season. But that winery had no mansion. The interior scenes were filmed on sound stages in Los Angeles, 300 miles from both the house and the vineyard. So when you watched an episode where Angela walked from her house into the vineyard, that was 3 different locations edited together. The production schedule was a nightmare. They'd film all the house exteriors in 1 week-long shoot, all the vineyard scenes in another week at a different location, then all the interior scenes on sound stages throughout the season. Continuity errors were constant. The grapes would be green in one shot and purple in the next because they were filmed months apart. The weather would change between a character walking out the front door and appearing in the vineyard, but viewers never noticed because the editing was so smooth. And the illusion was so complete that tourists would visit Napa Valley asking for directions to Falcon Crest. Local wineries started putting up signs saying "Not Falcon Crest" because they were tired of disappointed fans showing up looking for Angela Channing's office. Number 16. Susan Sullivan quit because she was written as too nice.
Leadership hasn't been effective enough.
Chase, I do not think this decision has anything to do with Max or the Valley.
Maggie Gioberti, the moral center of the show, the character who believed in doing the right thing even when it cost her. Susan Sullivan played her with warmth and integrity for 3 seasons. Then she walked away, not because she got a better offer, because she couldn't stand who Maggie had become, or rather, who Maggie had never been allowed to become. Sullivan had signed on believing Maggie would be complex, a woman capable of both kindness and ruthlessness, someone who could match Angela Channing's intensity with her own brand of strength. Instead, Maggie was the saint, the good one, the character who existed to be victimized, betrayed, and hurt by everyone around her. Every script Maggie got walked over. Her husband cheated, her family lied, business partners stole from her, and Maggie just took it with grace and dignity. Sullivan went to the writers repeatedly. She asked for scenes where Maggie fought back, where she manipulated, where she won through cunning instead of virtue. The writers said no. The show needed a moral compass, someone viewers could root for without reservation. Sullivan felt trapped playing a cardboard curiote instead of a character. By season 3, she'd had enough. She asked to be released from her contract. The producers refused. She had 2 more years. So, Sullivan did something drastic. She started playing Maggie as passive-aggressively as possible, delivering kind lines with a subtle edge. smiling while her eyes showed contempt, making the character's goodness feel fake, forced, and uncomfortable. The producers finally got the message. They wrote her off the show. Car accident. Dead. Never mentioned again. Sullivan's career took a hit. She'd broken her contract and developed a reputation for being difficult. But she never regretted it. She said she'd rather not work than play a doormat in designer clothes. Number 15. The show filmed real grape harvests and shut down actual wineries.
While I'm going to do everything I can to keep the vineyards and the winery the jewel of the valley.
Every season opened with harvest scenes. Workers picking grapes, crushers running, the romantic image of wine country in action. Those scenes weren't staged. They were real harvests. The production made deals with working wineries throughout Napa and Sonoma counties. During harvest season, typically August through October, the crew would show up at real wineries and film actual workers doing their jobs. But this created chaos. Harvest season is the most crucial time for a winery. Everything has to happen fast. Grapes have to be picked at the exact right moment. Any delay can ruin an entire year's production. The Falcon Crest crew would show up with trucks, cameras, lights, dozens of people. They'd need workers to repeat actions for multiple takes. They'd require certain areas to be clear for filming. Real work would grind to a halt. One winery lost 20% of their harvest because production delays meant grapes sat too long. They sued CBS. The lawsuit was settled quietly, but the amount was rumored to be in the hundreds of thousands. After that, the production started paying wineries massive fees. Not just location fees, compensation for lost production, insurance against crop damage. Some wineries made more money from Falcon Crest filming than from their actual wine sales that year. It created a strange economy in wine country. Wineries competing to get Falcon Crest to film at their location. Some would deliberately plant extra grapes just for the show to destroy during dramatic scenes. By season 5, Falcon Crest was spending more on winery location fees than on some actors' salaries. But those harvest shots looked authentic because they were authentic, even if they were bankrupting real businesses in the process. Number 14. Jane Wyman and Ronald Reagan's divorce haunted the show's entire run.
Well, I am religious, but I don't put much faith in miracles. Maggie, and it keeps Angela on her toes because she's trying to figure out exactly what she is.
Jane Wyman's most famous relationship wasn't with anyone on Falcon Crest. It was with her ex-husband, Ronald Reagan. They'd divorced in 1948, 33 years before Falcon Crest premiered. But in 1981, Reagan became president of the United States. And suddenly, Jane Wyman was the ex-wife of the most powerful man in the world. The media couldn't resist. Every interview, every profile, every article about Falcon Crest mentioned Reagan. Wyman hated it. She'd spent decades building a career separate from that marriage. She'd won an Oscar, done acclaimed film work, created a life that had nothing to do with Ronald Reagan. Then he became president, and she couldn't escape him. The Falcon Crest producers tried to use it for publicity. They'd arrange interviews where reporters would inevitably ask about Reagan. Wyman would refuse to answer, walk out, cancel appearances. She demanded a clause in all press materials, no questions about Ronald Reagan. Most journalists ignored it. The tension affected the show in weird ways. When Reagan visited California, the Secret Service would sweep the area. That included the Falcon Crest filming locations. Production would shut down for presidential movements, costing time and money. Wyman refused to attend any Hollywood events where she might encounter Reagan or Nancy. That meant no Emmy ceremonies, no Golden Globes, no publicity events that might benefit the show. Cast members were forbidden from mentioning Reagan in interviews, even positive comments. Wyman didn't want any association. By Reagan's second term, the obsession had faded slightly, but for Wyman, it never really ended. She had divorced him decades ago, but his shadow followed her until the day she died. Sometimes the past doesn't stay buried, even when you've spent a lifetime trying to cover it up. Number 13. Robert Foxworth was fired for gaining 15 pounds. Chase Gioberti, the outsider who married into the family and challenged Angela's control. Robert Foxworth played him as rugged, principled, and strong. Then, in season 4, he gained weight. Not dramatically, 15 pounds. Barely noticeable to most viewers, but CBS noticed. The network had started implementing appearance standards for actors on primetime dramas. Dynasty and Dallas had beautiful people in every scene. Falcon Crest needed to compete. Foxworth was called into a meeting with producers. They told him the weight gain was unacceptable. He needed to lose it immediately. Foxworth was insulted. He was playing a vineyard owner, not a model. Real people who work with their hands don't look like gym sculptures. The producers didn't care. Lose the weight or face consequences. Foxworth refused. He saw it as a stand against the impossible beauty standards Hollywood imposed. He thought his talent mattered more than his waistline. He was wrong. Mid-season, Chase Gioberti was killed off. Helicopter crash. Sudden, no warning. Foxworth found out when the script was delivered to his home. He called the producers, furious. They told him the decision was final. If he wanted to stay on television, he needed to take his appearance seriously. Foxworth didn't work in television again for 3 years. Not because he couldn't get hired, because he refused to audition. He'd go to casting calls and they'd ask him about his fitness routine, his diet, his gym schedule, questions that had nothing to do with acting. He'd walk out. Eventually he came back, thinner, hungrier, willing to play by the rules he'd once rejected, but he never forgave Falcon Crest, and he never forgot that Hollywood cares more about your body than your talent. Number 12, the show's wine was real, and several cast members developed drinking problems.
I doubt if you would have been happy here. After all, we have to fight for what we have. Well, thank you for coming.
Falcon Crest featured wine in nearly every scene. Characters drinking at dinner, business meetings conducted over Cabernet, celebrations with champagne. That wine was real. The production used actual wine from sponsoring vineyards, hundreds of bottles per episode, and the actors drank it, all of it. They'd film a dinner scene, 10 takes. Each take, the actors would drink the wine in their glasses. By the end of the scene, they'd consumed multiple glasses. Then they'd film another scene, more wine. Some shooting days, actors would drink the equivalent of 2 bottles of wine. They weren't supposed to actually drink it. Industry standard is to spit between takes or use colored water. But the Falcon Crest producers wanted authenticity. They wanted the characters to look like they were actually enjoying the wine. So, actors drank. By season 3, at least 4 cast members had developed serious alcohol dependencies. One actress checked into rehab between seasons. Another started showing up to set already drunk, making the problem worse. The production finally implemented rules. Wine in glasses had to be dumped between takes. Actual consumption limited. But by then, the damage was done. One cast member later said that Falcon Crest gave them a drinking problem they struggled with for decades. That every time they saw wine, they remembered those endless takes, the pressure to drink, the normalization of consuming alcohol all day at work. The show about a vineyard had inadvertently created real alcoholics, and nobody talked about it publicly for 30 years. Number 11. David Selby was playing 2 characters on 2 different shows simultaneously.
Isn't that something? I can't wait to make it mine.
I'm not so sure that I'm grateful for that.
Richard Channing, the scheming lawyer who arrives in season 2 and immediately begins plotting against Angela. David Selby played him with delicious villainy. But what audiences didn't know was that Selby was simultaneously playing Quentin Collins on Dark Shadows revival movies and specials. Same character he'd played in the late 60s. For 2 years, Selby would film Falcon Crest during the week, then fly to the East Coast on weekends to film Dark Shadows content. 2 completely different characters. One a modern scheming lawyer, one a gothic horror supernatural figure. The schedule was brutal. Selby was getting maybe 4 hours of sleep a night, flying back and forth across the country constantly, learning 2 sets of scripts, keeping 2 characters' histories straight in his head. Sometimes he'd mix them up. On Falcon Crest, he'd start to deliver a line with Quentin's melodramatic gothic inflection. He'd catch himself mid-sentence, start over. The crew thought he was being perfectionist. He was just exhausted and confused. The producers of both shows knew about the arrangement but didn't care, as long as Selby showed up and performed, but it nearly destroyed him. By 1984, Selby collapsed on set from exhaustion, hospitalized for 3 days. Doctors told him he had to choose. One show or neither. He chose Falcon Crest, better pay, more stable schedule, but he always regretted it. Years later, he said Dark Shadows was the role he loved. Richard Channing was just the role that paid the bills, and sometimes paying the bills means giving up the thing you actually care about. Number 10. The show was rewritten after Mount St. Helens to include a volcanic disaster.
It's an earthquake.
Season 2 was planned months in advance, scripts locked, shooting schedules finalized. Then Mount St. Helens erupted in May 1980. The volcanic eruption dominated news coverage for weeks. Images of ash clouds and destroyed landscapes were everywhere. And the Falcon Crest writers saw an opportunity. What if a natural disaster threatened the vineyard? They pitched it to the network. CBS loved it. Rip it from the headlines. Make Falcon Crest feel urgent, relevant, and connected to real events. The problem was they'd already filmed half the season. Storylines were in motion. Character arcs were established. The writers had to retrofit a volcanic threat into scripts that had no room for it. They created a fictional dormant volcano near the valley. Suddenly, characters were talking about geological surveys and evacuation plans. Scenes were added where ash fell on the grapes. Scientists warned of a potential eruption. The original season finale was scrapped entirely, replaced with an episode where the volcano threatens to destroy everything. Angela has to decide whether to evacuate and save lives or stay and protect her harvest. The new finale was written in 72 hours, filmed in 5 days. Visual effects added volcanic smoke in post-production. It looked cheap. The smoke didn't match the lighting. The ash falling on the actors was clearly just debris dropped from above. But viewers loved it. Ratings spiked. The season finale became one of the most watched episodes in Falcon Crest history. And the writers learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes breaking your own story to chase headlines works, even when the execution is terrible. Because audiences don't remember quality, they remember feeling like the show understands the world they're living in. Number 9. Anna Alicia was paid less than male co-stars despite having more screen time.
I just needed some time alone.
Of course.
But, I don't want to be alone now. And I appreciate your sympathies. I had no idea you were so concerned over my welfare.
Melissa Agretti, the scheming, ambitious character who became one of Falcon Crest's most popular figures. Anna Alicia played her for 6 seasons. She was in more scenes than almost anyone except Jane Wyman. Fan favorite, critical darling, essential to major storylines. And she was paid 60% of what male co-stars with less screen time were making. Alicia discovered the pay disparity in season 4. She was looking over her contract renewal and asked her agent to find out what other cast members earned. The numbers shocked her. Lorenzo Lamas, who joined after her, made significantly more. David Selby, who was in fewer episodes, made more. Even actors playing recurring characters made comparable salaries despite appearing in a fraction of episodes. Alicia went to the producers. She brought documentation, screen time comparisons, episode counts. She made a calm, professional case for equal pay. The producers said no. They claimed Lamas and Selby were bigger names, more marketable. Their argument fell apart under scrutiny. Alicia was on magazine covers, doing press tours. She was the marketable one. But the producers wouldn't budge, so Alicia took it public. She gave an interview to a television trade magazine, talked openly about the pay gap, the sexism in Hollywood compensation. CBS was furious. They threatened to sue her for violating confidentiality agreements. She dared them to try. The lawsuit never happened. Too much bad publicity, but Alicia's contract wasn't renewed after season 6. She was written off the show, disappeared with barely an explanation. Alicia's career suffered. She'd been labeled a troublemaker, difficult, someone who aired private business publicly. She barely worked for the next decade, but she never apologized. She said speaking truth was worth more than staying employed in a system built on inequality. Number 8. William R. Moses was hired because he looked like Robert Foxworth.
I want you to get better. I love you. I need you.
I feel it already. Join forces once and for all, one family united.
When Chase Gioberti died in the helicopter crash, the show had a problem. The character had been central to multiple ongoing storylines. His death created gaps that the writers weren't sure how to fill. Then someone had an idea. What if Chase had a younger cousin, someone who looked similar, could step into some of the same story functions? Enter Cole Gioberti, played by William R. Moses. The resemblance wasn't coincidental. Moses was hired specifically because he looked like Robert Foxworth. Same build, similar facial structure, comparable hair color. The producers literally told casting directors to find someone who could pass as a relative. They wanted viewers to see Cole and think of Chase, to transfer their emotional investment in one character to another. Moses knew why he was hired. It was stated explicitly in his first meeting. "You remind us of Robert Foxworth." That's a compliment. That's why you're here. He thought it was strange, but didn't question it. Work was work. The problem was that Moses couldn't escape the comparison. Reviewers called him Chase Light and Discount Foxworth. Fans sent letters saying he was a poor replacement. The writers gave him storylines that were basically recycled Chase plots. Moses tried to differentiate himself. He played Cole differently. Softer, more vulnerable, less confrontational. It didn't matter. He was always the guy replacing someone else. After 2 seasons, Moses asked to leave. He was tired of being compared to an actor he'd never met, tired of playing a character created purely as a replacement. The producers let him go without much fight. They brought in another new character. The cycle continued. Because Falcon Crest didn't want original characters, it wanted replaceable parts. Number 7. The show filmed fake weddings that cost more than real ones. Soap operas love weddings. Falcon Crest had at least one per season. Elaborate ceremonies, designer dresses, hundreds of extras, and they were obscenely expensive. Season 5's wedding episode cost $400,000 to produce. For context, the average wedding in America in 1985 cost $11,000. The Falcon Crest fake wedding cost 36 times more than real people spent on actual marriages. Why so expensive? Because the production spared no expense on details that would barely be visible on screen. Real champagne for toast scenes, even though most of it got poured out. Designer wedding cakes that cost thousands of dollars, even though they'd only be on screen for seconds. Fresh flower arrangements filled the entire set, even though the camera would mostly focus on the actors' faces. The bride's dress alone cost $50,000. Custom designed, hand beaded, took 3 months to create. The actress wore it for 20 minutes of screen time. Then it went into storage, never worn again. The production justified the expense by saying these episodes got higher ratings. Viewers loved wedding drama. The spectacle drew audiences. And higher ratings meant higher advertising rates. So, technically the weddings paid for themselves. But the excess was staggering. Crew members joked that you could fund an entire indie film for the cost of one Falcon Crest wedding. The elaborate productions became a point of pride for the show, a way to compete with Dynasty's legendary excess. But they also represented everything wrong with 80s television, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on moments that would be forgotten by next week's episode. Number 6. Jane Wyman controlled everything down to other actors' wardrobe choices.
Julia told me you'd come up here, Emma.
I'm sorry, Mother.
It's the groom side, you know.
Oh, yes, I know, but I can see better from up here.
Angela Channing wasn't just the most powerful character on Falcon Crest. Jane Wyman was the most powerful person on set, and she exercised that power in increasingly bizarre ways. By season 3, Wyman had approval over nearly every aspect of production: scripts, guest casting, set design, and most strangely, what other actors wore. If Wyman thought another actress's outfit was too flashy, she'd demand it be changed. Too much jewelry, too bright colors, anything that might pull focus from her. Abby Dalton, who played Julia, showed up one day in a red dress for a dinner scene. Wyman took one look and said no. Red was too attention-grabbing. Dalton had to change into beige. Another actress came to the set wearing a statement necklace. Wyman had it removed, said it was distracting. The costume department started running all wardrobe choices past Wyman before filming. They'd present options. She'd approve or reject. Other actors resented it deeply. They felt infantilized, controlled, but no one could challenge her. Wyman had it in her contract. Final approval over elements that might affect her performance. And she interpreted that broadly. Some actors found workarounds. They'd wear approved costumes for Wyman's scenes. Then, the change for scenes she wasn't in. But Wyman found out and had that banned too. She wanted consistency. She wanted control. By season 7, several cast members refused to film scenes with Wyman unless absolutely necessary. Not because of her deafness, because of her tyranny. But Wyman didn't care. She was Angela Channing on screen and off. And in her vineyard, her word was law. Number 5. The show's finale was changed 3 days before filming.
Grandfather, how long has it been since you...
9 seasons, 227 episodes, and nobody knew how to end it. The writers had pitched multiple finale concepts. The network rejected all of them. Too dark, too ambiguous, too definitive. CBS wanted an ending that could be reversed if they decided to bring the show back. A finale that wasn't really final. The writers were stuck. They had 4 days until filming and no approved script. Finally, 3 days before the cameras rolled, the network approved a concept. Angela would appear to die, but the ending would be ambiguous enough that she could potentially return. The writers worked around the clock. 72 hours to write, revise, and finalize a series finale. No sleep, living on coffee and studio lot food. The script was delivered to the actors the morning they started filming. No rehearsal time, no table read, just, here's the script, we're shooting it now. Jane Wyman was furious. She'd expected a grand finale, something worthy of 9 seasons. Instead, she got a hastily written, ambiguous ending that felt like a regular episode. She threatened not to film it. The producers reminded her of her contract. She filmed it. But you can see her displeasure in the performance. Angela Channing's final moments are played with visible contempt. Not Angela's contempt for her circumstances. Wyman's contempt for the material. The finale aired to mixed reviews. Some viewers loved the ambiguity. Others felt cheated. No one knew it had been written in 3 days. That the ending that defined 9 years of television had been thrown together in a panic because no one could agree on how a vineyard soap opera should end. Number 4. The show accidentally influenced real California wine industry practices.
Revenge leaves a very bitter taste in one's mouth. Something like sour grapes.
Falcon Crest was fiction, but it changed real business practices in California wine country. The show depicted vineyard operations, business dealings, and family wineries competing with corporate operations. Much of it was exaggerated for drama, but real vintners watched, and they started copying what they saw. Season 3 featured a storyline about direct-to-consumer wine sales, cutting out distributors and selling directly to customers through a mailing list. At the time, very few wineries did this. Most relied on traditional distribution channels. After the Falcon Crest episode aired, dozens of real wineries started developing direct-to-consumer programs. They'd literally reference the show in their business plans. Another storyline dealt with estate-grown branding. The idea that wine from grapes grown entirely on your own property was more valuable than wine made from purchased grapes. This wasn't a new concept, but Falcon Crest popularized it among consumers. Viewers started asking for estate-grown wines specifically. Wineries responded by emphasizing estate programs and charging premium prices. The show also depicted wine tourism, characters visiting vineyards for tastings and tours. Before Falcon Crest, most wineries didn't offer public tastings. It wasn't seen as profitable, but the show made it look glamorous, romantic, aspirational. Within 3 years, wine country tourism exploded. Napa Valley became a destination. Tasting rooms opened everywhere. An entire industry was born, partially because a soap opera made drinking wine on a vineyard look sophisticated. The Wine Institute, California's trade organization, later acknowledged that Falcon Crest had a measurable impact on consumer behavior and industry practices. A television show had accidentally shaped an entire agricultural sector. Number 3. Cesar Romero was hired for name recognition, then immediately regretted it.
You broke my heart. I didn't come to San Francisco to have you break it again.
The moment you have all been waiting for.
Cesar Romero, Hollywood legend, the Joker from the 60s Batman series. Dozens of classic films. When he joined Falcon Crest in Season 8 as Peter Stavros, it should have been a prestige casting, a respected veteran lending gravitas to a primetime soap. Instead, it became his worst professional experience. Romero signed on because he needed work. He was 79 years old. Film roles had dried up. Television was his only option. The producers promised him a substantial recurring role, a character with depth and importance. What he got was completely different. Peter Stavros was written as a joke, an elderly buffoon, comic relief. His storylines were embarrassing. He'd forget things for cheap laughs. His romantic plots with much younger women were played for cringe. Romero was humiliated. He'd spent decades building a dignified career. Now he was the doddering old man in a soap opera. He complained to producers, asked for the character to be revised. They refused. This is what tested well. Audiences liked the comic relief. Romero considered quitting, but couldn't afford to. He needed the paycheck. So he showed up, did his scenes, hated every minute. Cast members felt terrible for him. This legendary actor reduced to pratfalls and senior citizen jokes, but no one had the power to change it. Romero did 21 episodes. When his contract ended, he didn't renew. He did almost no television work after that, retired rather than risk another humiliating role. In interviews years later, he'd talk about his career, all the films, all the classic roles. If anyone mentioned Falcon Crest, he'd change the subject. Some jobs aren't worth the money. Some indignities can't be forgotten. Number 2. The show was sued by a real Napa Valley family who claimed it was based on them.
Right now the boys are in public school, but if we move...
Well, I think the boys should be going to a private school.
Mother.
Oh, yes, I can. I have all of the proof I need.
The Mondavi family, one of Napa Valley's most prominent wine dynasties. And in 1983, they sued CBS for $2 million. They claim Falcon Crest was based on their family, that Angela Channing was modeled on Rosa Mondavi, that the show's storylines paralleled their real family disputes. The lawsuit laid out specific comparisons. Both families had vineyard patriarchs who had died, leaving control uncertain. Both had family members fighting over inheritance. Both had conflicts between traditional methods and modern business practices. The Mondavi attorneys brought evidence, production notes, research documents showing Falcon Crest writers had interviewed people in Napa Valley, including people connected to the Mondavi family. CBS fought back hard. They argued Falcon Crest was pure fiction, that any similarities were coincidental, that family vineyard conflicts were universal, not specific to one family. The case went to discovery. Depositions were taken. Writers were questioned under oath about their research and inspiration. And something interesting emerged. The writers had researched multiple Napa families, not just Mondavi. They'd pulled elements from several real dynasties and blended them together. No single family could claim ownership of the composite character. The judge agreed, dismissed the lawsuit, but the damage was done. The publicity made people believe Falcon Crest was a Roman à clef, a thinly veiled depiction of real people. Viewership actually increased. People tuned in trying to spot which storylines matched real Napa Valley scandals. The Mondavi family got nothing except confirmation that their private business had become entertainment. And Falcon Crest got free publicity worth millions. Number 1. Jane Wyman died without ever watching a complete episode.
What is it you want from me this time?
A job, a place to live.
She's up to her usual skullduggery, I can tell you.
9 seasons, 227 episodes. Jane Wyman was in almost every single one. The show existed because of her. She was Falcon Crest, and she never watched it. Not once, not a single complete episode from beginning to end. Wyman had a policy. She didn't watch her own work. She'd done it throughout her film career. She believed watching yourself perform made you self-conscious, made you start acting for the camera instead of for the character. So, she never watched dailies, never attended screenings, never saw the final product. When Falcon Crest premiered, CBS threw a screening party. All the cast attended, except Wyman. She sent her apologies and stayed home. Every season premiere after that, same thing. She wouldn't watch. Cast members found it strange. How do you spend 9 years creating something and never see what you've created? But Wyman was adamant. She didn't need to see it. She knew what she'd done. Whether it was good or not wasn't for her to judge. After the show ended, reporters would ask her about favorite episodes or memorable scenes. She'd deflect, talk about the experience of filming, but never the finished product. In her final interview before her death in 2007, someone asked if she'd ever consider watching Falcon Crest now that enough time had passed. Wyman said no. That was Angela's life. I lived it once. Why would I want to watch someone else live it? She died never knowing what millions of viewers saw, never experiencing the show that defined her later career, never witnessing how her performance translated to screen. Sometimes the person at the center of something is the only one who never sees the whole picture, and sometimes that's exactly how they want it. Bonus fact.
If you look at this house though, everything you see on the exterior, all the windows and the stonework is all original. We will be going inside.
The show's opening credits featured a vineyard that burned down during production. Those iconic opening shots, sweeping views of rolling vineyards, the Falcon Crest logo superimposed over acres of grapevines. Viewers watched those credits for 9 seasons. What they didn't know was that the vineyard burned down in season 4. The production had used the same location for opening credits since the pilot, a particularly picturesque vineyard in Sonoma County. They'd return every year to film updated shots, different seasons, different light. In October 1984, wildfires swept through Northern California. The vineyard was destroyed, acres of grapevines incinerated. The production scrambled. They needed new opening credits, but every other vineyard they looked at didn't match. Different hills, different angles. It would be obvious. So they made a choice, keep using the old footage. For 5 more seasons, the Falcon Crest opening credits showed a vineyard that no longer existed, a landscape that had been reduced to ash while the show pretended it still flourished. The vineyard's owners never rebuilt. They sold the property. It was developed into housing. Today there's a subdivision where those famous grapevines once grew. Families living in houses, unaware they're sleeping, where Falcon Crest's most iconic images were captured. Sometimes the thing that represents a show outlives the thing itself, and sometimes the image is all that's left when reality burns away. Falcon Crest ran for 9 seasons, 227 episodes. It never matched Dynasty or Dallas in ratings, but carved its own space in the primetime soap opera landscape. A show about wine country that was really about power, family, and the cost of ambition. But behind the glamorous veneer, it was chaos. A Death Star controlling everything. Actors fired for gaining weight. Real wine creating real alcoholics. A creator punching an executive and getting banned from his own show. And through it all, grapes growing in a vineyard that eventually burned to the ground, while the credits pretended it still existed. If you love discovering what really fermented behind the scenes, go ahead and like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which secret shocked you most. Thanks for watching. And remember, in wine country as in Hollywood, the best stories are the ones that never make it into the bottle.